Hello everybody. Today I want to share with you a situation that happened to me last night that I thought was a good example of choosing right-mindedness and trusting that the Holy Spirit would in fact handle everything as it should be. Yesterday I went to dinner with a friend of mine. We chose this Mexican restaurant down the street, and I did tell the hostess who was taking down the names that I needed a table for two. And she said, oh, it would be about, 30-minute wait. Are you sure you want to, do you still want me to put you on the list? I said, yes, go ahead and put us on the list. And so I walked away. Well, 30 minutes came and went. And at this point, I was a little tired, to say the least, and so was my friend who was with me. And so I went back to the woman just to check in, see where we are on the list. And she said, well, what's your name? And I said, it's Craig. And she looked, and there was no Craig on the list, but there was a Greg. And she said, oh, I must have written it down as Greg, which is possible because it was very loud. And she said, well, you're coming up. You're next. You're next in line. So I went back and waited, and just nobody coming to us with a table. And so I went back, and she says, well, I don't see your name down. And I said, well, I was just here before, and you said it was Greg. Anyways, long story short, she had not put my name down on that list. And in fact, there was a Greg, and it was another party. It was not me. And by this point, over an hour had passed, and I was very upset. And the ego was there to right the wrong. And my friend was also very upset, in fact, more upset than I was. And so I basically was telling the woman, at this point, you need to seat us. I mean, we've been waiting here forever. And in that second, the owner of the restaurant appeared. And he can tell we were upset, and he stepped in, and he was, he wanted to protect his girls, as he called them, his girls at the restaurant. And he said, I appreciate you not yelling. And of course, I wasn't yelling because I know I'm not a yeller. And so then I started to begin to get upset because I wasn't yelling, but I had to catch myself and remember that in presence will this get solved. And so I had, and also I knew that by defending myself would only make this situation more real. And so what I did is really open myself to be led by the Holy Spirit, in which I backed down and I allowed him to say whatever it is that he had to say and create a space where I can then begin to tell my story from a very calm place. Now, the person I was with wasn't as calm as I was, and so I had to also grab his hand and just hold his hand very snugly to get the message across that I would take care of it. Not I would take care of it from an ego standpoint, but that I would be the one to communicate. And so I began to explain to the gentleman what had transpired, and very quickly you can sense that he understood the place that I was coming from, which was very peaceful. I wasn't there to make a scene. I wasn't there to assert my ego more than I had already done so. In fact, I was there to let go of my ego and just see what would happen. And he came around and immediately said, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this transpired. And it was also quite funny because the person I was with wanted to assert their ego, and my friend that was with me wanted to walk out and said, well, that's not enough, we're gonna leave. And the owner said, well, let me make it up to you. And the person I was with said, well, it's gonna take a lot. And again, part of the challenge for me also was not to try to hold the other person back, but rather stay in this presence and simply allow the Holy Spirit, because I knew that the Holy Spirit would not only fix the situation between me and the owner, but for the person that I was with, also bring that person to a place of presence if I can stay with conviction in the moment. And so what eventually happened was the owner did take care of it and sat us at a table immediately, found the very next available table for us, and sat us down. And we got mentioned from the waiter that the owner was also going to pay for the drinks. And then the owner himself came back to the table more than once to check in on us. And by the end of the meal, the check came, and the check was blank. The owner had actually comped the entire meal for free. And it was very clear to me that in just allowing the Holy Spirit to come into that moment by pulling out the ego, by removing my sense of, oh, I got to fix it. I can allow something much bigger to take care of the situation. And so from one perspective, it was actually a miraculous unfolding, and it turned out to be a very good dinner, and it was free. So the next time you find yourself very tempted to take a stand as an ego and try to make things right, I suggest you pull back and just allow the presence to take over and allow the Holy Spirit to kind of come in, because he can probably do a better job of righting this situation.